continuation with the NFC North, we're going to talk about the Green Bay Packers and why they're probably going to be the team that will very much will improve, and why they could probably win the NFC North, maybe. All right, well, looking at the Packers, of course, you still have one of the greatest quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers. Hopefully, he doesn't shatter his collarbone again, and can play another full 16 games. And of course, they did trade for Deshaun Kaiser, but back quarterbacks not much problem unless Rodgers gets hurt again. But I think he'll stay relatively healthy once again for the Green Bay Packers. Now, running back, they definitely have some big surprises. Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams both stepped up and played very, very well for the team. I could honestly see those two probably splitting snaps throughout the season, Jones and Williams. Jones is a faster, quicker one, probably a better receiving back, and Jamal Williams is probably going to be more of a two-down back, kind of a north-south runner. I could honestly see this being very close to being like how the the Falcons treat Coleman and Freeman, as well as the Saints treat Ingram and Kamara. But both these running backs are young, they're cheap, they're still there. They just need to stay healthy relatively, and they should commit to a good running game. The offense. They should commit to a bit more of a running game with Jones and Williams, and I think it will work well. It'll work very well. The wide receiving core. Ooh, this is the first season we're not seeing Jordy Nelson in the receiving core for like the first time since 2009, I think, or 2008, because he was one of the more reliable wide receivers, but unfortunately when Rodgers went down, Nelson struggled to pick up the pieces, and they eventually moved on without him. The new number one wide receiver now is Davante Adams, who made up for his starting out year where he had like 12 touchdowns with another double-digit touchdown season. I think he had like 10 maybe. And sure, he didn't play all 16 games. He played 14, but I still see this guy being a top-tier wide receiver for the team. They also have Geronimo Allison. Yeah, that's a very interesting name. Randall Cobb, and a few other players that they're going to have kind of battle for the team. Jamon Moore, Marquise Vandal-Scantling, Equanimous St. Brown, etc. But I definitely see probably the main three being Geronimo Allison, Davante Adams, and Randall Cobb. Overall, it's a very good wide receiving core, and of course, they added Jimmy Graham in free agency, gave him that 3-year, $30 million deal to be not only the third down converter, but also the touchdown scorer when they get close to the red zone. And I think they also added Mercedes Lewis. It says right here, probably could be wrong. Probably is wrong, but who knows? If they did add him, that's a good blocking tight end, maybe probably a good backup tight end for Graham. And overall, the weapons are, of course, very, very, very good. I really like Adams. I'm glad he stepped up well and became this dominant force wide receiver. I'm really worried that Randall Cobb could be seeing his way out of the team very, very shortly if he does not pick it up and become the wide receiver that they paid him to be back in 2014. And definitely there will be a huge role increase for Geronimo Allison. He really stepped up, played very well, and I think there's a good chance he'll probably produce well with Aaron Rodgers being there for all 16 games. And getting Jimmy Graham, this is really the first time they had a legitimate receiving tight end since Jermichael Finley was on the team. And unfortunately, Finley's injuries were too much to overcome for him, so they just kind of had to get by with some tight ends, just middle tier tight ends, but nothing really standout worthy. Nothing on the level that Jimmy Graham is. Of course, off the tag, we got Brian Bulaga and at right tackle, and at left tackle, you have David Bakatari. Those are both two solid tackles. They're both I'm sorry, not solid, very, very talented tackles. And of course, interior, I think right now one of them is probably Lane Taylor, and there might be a little bit of competition for the other end. And at center is Corey Linsley from Ohio State. I think it might be a bit of a competition between like Cole Madison, Kyle Murphy, a few other players, and they are probably going to try out at that tackle position. But overall, it's a very, very talented. It's a good offensive line overall. I do want to see some improvement from the team. I do want to see some very much improvement from that offensive line. But it's still a top 5 offense, especially with Aaron Rodgers being back all 6. If Aaron Rodgers does play all 16 games and doesn't suffer another collarbone injury. And looking at the defense, they finally got rid of their defensive coordinator, Don Capers. And if it was one thing Packers fans were wanting, if there was one person that the Packers really wanted to go, was Dom Capers, and I think he's finally, and I do believe he's finally gone. Yeah, it's now Mike Pettin at defensive coordinator. Oh, that's going to be interesting. And the defensive line has potentially to be the most dominant and dangerous defensive line. You have Mike Daniels, who's really stepped into being this three down defensive lineman. Everyone talks about, like Aaron Donald, how great he is. I mean, look at Mike Daniels. He didn't have the same kind of pedigree as Donald. Just overall being not being first round pick, he was a 4th round pick, but he has stepped up and becoming a great pass rusher and a great run defender. And now he has a partner now in Muhammad Wilkerson, who they got in free agency. Hopefully, he's very much committed and winning and prepared to win and plays back to how he was from like 2011 to 2014. I think like 15, 16, 17, he started to decline and started not caring. But if he does improve well, that's a very dangerous defense line, especially with Kenny Clark playing in the interior. And especially, with this 3-4 defense that they're running, that's a very dangerous scheme. Those are some very, very, very dangerous players to have lined up right there. I could definitely see this team being very, very dangerous, especially when you go on. Edge rushers are being Nick Perry, who has been a consistent force, and Clayton Matthews. In interior, you have Blake Martinez and Jake Ryan at the inside. And the corners, I love what they did with their corners. I really did. They didn't just address the position once, they addressed it twice in the draft. Right now, the starter, one of the sure starts is Kevin King, and right now it's going to be Tremont Williams. I feel like he's going to be the vet to be. I think Quentin Rollins is probably on his way out, especially since they brought in 2 new corners, Jari Alexander and Josh Jackson. I'm going to go over this later. And they have Clint Dix. They got rid of Morgan Burnett, and I think they're promoting Josh Jones to being the other starting safety, or they might kick Rollins to safety. And of course, they also have Devon House, who I think also might be on his way out. So now talking about the defense, as well as the team overall. I do like the defense. I think it has a real opportunity to vastly improve. I think, the players that they added, it's very much close to being complete defense, especially the secondary. I felt like the secondary was very much a problem for them. They saw it, they said, let's get rid of the coordinator. They got a new guy. They brought in some players. They really addressed all three lineups. Well, except linebacker, I think they were fine with linebacker, but that's beside the point. They really wanted to address some of these other positions. Other positions per se. Like the corner. Now you're going to have, you could possibly have 3 young corners that are not only cheap, but also ready for development. I think their goal for them is that they're going to have Kevin King play on one side, have John Jackson play the other, and have Jari Alexander serve basically as a Chris Harris type, as a Chris Harris corner. He's going to probably play on the outside on the first couple downs, and when they switch to their nickel scheme, he's going to kick inside, and you're going to see Josh Jackson coming here. They really want to have their corner scheme work like that, and especially with safeties. Now you got Clinton Diggs and Josh Jones. I think Josh Jones is a very fast safety, and I think he's probably going to play pretty close to the line, and you're going to have Clinton Diggs basically be the free range safety of the team. And if this scheme does work out, if they get King, Jackson, and Alexander all develop very well, this could very much well lead to, in all probability, another ring. Because one thing that did work for this team was a great defense. You had Charles Woodson, you had Tramon Williams step up and play well. I forget who the nickel corner was, but also they had some. But like I said, they had some young players at the time really step up. Like Jordan Nelson stepped up in the playoffs, especially in the Super Bowl, and he eventually became one of the best wide receivers from 2011 to 2016. Can't sing out 2015 because unfortunately he tore his ACL. But yeah, he's I think this team is definitely going to be back in the playoffs and maybe take the division title from the Minnesota Vikings because they have gotten better. The key is, in all respectfulness, is to stay healthy. If they can stay healthy, then that is going to be a huge plus for them. I mean, schedule-wise, schedule-wise, it's going to be fine. But like I said, the roster is very well set. It's probably as closest to being complete as it has been forever. I mean, even their 2010 team, when they went in, which they won the Super Bowl, they didn't really have a running back or really a running game. Ryan Grant was battling injuries. James Starks was kind of that guy you got off the bench every now and then. They had a couple other players, but no real run. But they didn't have a real run. But this time, they actually have not only two legitimate running backs, but a real need to probably get the run game going. And I also thought the offensive line was way better in 2010 because the center... I remember Scott Wells. Scott Wells was the center. Of course, the guards were T.J. Lang and Josh Sitton. Bakatari wasn't there. It was Byron Balaga, and the other one I still think it was Shaq Clifton. I could have been wrong. Could be very, 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 very wrong. But I think this is a much better team than it was in 2010, and this is probably a team that could very, very, very much well compete in Super Bowl 52. In Atlanta. I'm sorry, 53. I'm sorry, it's 53. I'm wrong. And it's a very talented team. I do like this team finishing out very, very well. It could this will be one of the top tier teams in the NFC overall. I think they're back, and this is definitely one of their last years because unfortunately Aaron Rodgers is 35. The injuries eventually going to catch up. I'm hoping. I mean, if he all of a sudden starts suffering this huge decline, it's really going to affect this team, and it's going to damage any possibility and any chances of ever winning a Super Bowl. However, if he can at least let's just be real. Let's be a little realistic and say 2 years out. This is probably, and they could honestly win a Super Bowl if not now, and probably like 2019 and 2020. But this is now the time for them to win a Super Bowl. Try to cash in at least one more year with Aaron Rodgers. So far, they only got one title and one Super Bowl visit. If they can get another title in, they can honestly sit down and say this was a successful run. He was drafted in 2005, but didn't start till 2008. This is his 10th year. This is going to be his 10th year in a row being the starting quarterback, and I definitely sense the emergence of them wanting this guy to get another ring and as well as win another championship overall. And of course, looking at their schedule, the main challenge I think is going to be going against the Vikings. Of course, I am dying, and I do mean dying, to see them play against the Patriots and how they do. But of course, playing the Vikings, you also play the Atlanta, who has kicked their butt twice in a row, giving them some real challenge. They're hoping to overcome. Then they also have to play the Rams, and I can see this team doing very, very well, getting back to the playoffs, probably with like 11-5 or 12-4 record. It's a talented team with really basically a topless ceiling. Only them can really put the roof on where their limit draws. I do see this team probably making the Super Bowl for repping the NFC side. They definitely have some competition. Of course, playing against the Vikings, who are very challenging and could be a big problem for the next 3 to 4 years. They do have, and of course, there's other teams in the NFC. They have to learn how to beat. They have to finally beat the Falcons. They have to, and of course, they have to play the Saints at some point when it comes to the playoffs. And of course, the NFC East, the Cowboys again, the Giants, the Eagles, the division-winning Eagles, as well as other teams. And if they can overcome them, if they can muster one last go at the Super Bowl, then they're pretty much cemented as one of the greatest, as a very great team, and I don't see anyone getting in their way.